Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Truth Seekers Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Kenny Williamson. Today we're going to be talking about, well, several different things, but one of the main things I wanted to talk about is a subject that I mentioned in a previous podcast. I talked about satellites in space and airplanes and such. And I actually posted a little picture on TikTok. And it shows a guy looking up, and he says, I can't hardly see an airplane 8 miles away, but I can see a satellite 350 miles away, no problem. It doesn't make any sense, right? So I've got, it's got tens of thousands of views, and it's got all kinds of comments. Well, you can imagine the kind of comments because, TikTok, of course, like all other social media platforms, are full of bots and they're full of idiots. So we've got lots of bots and lots of idiots. And some aren't idiots. They have no discernment, and they have, they've been lied to their whole life, propaganda, and they just can't wrap their minds around anything other than what, they see on Cartoon Network, in other words. So, I used to be there. I was there at one time, so I can't, just call them complete blooming idiots. The difference, though, in me and them is when I was presented the information, I had enough sense to actually look into it, and I had enough of an open mind to look at the facts versus fiction and weigh out the two. Most people now, they can't do any of that. Okay. They just can't do a squatting thing compared to that. Okay. Let's see where to begin on this. Well, I guess the first thing is yes, I did another one, and I put some shorts out there, little short clips of a podcast talking about the difference, again, in the size of a satellite and the size of, let's say, a Boeing 747. So I got a lot of comments and negative comments on that because people, they have no clue of anything. So I talked about a 747 and said it was roughly the size of a football field. Well, they're like an airplane, yeah, they're trying to say an airplane's not that big. Well, the overall dimensions, wingspan and stuff, close to 100 yards. Okay. The same thing as a space station. It's supposedly about 100 yards in some direction, right? That's pretty big compared to if you were in a football field sitting there with a Coca-Cola in your hand. The Coca-Cola sitting in the corner of a football field versus a Boeing 747 sitting in a football field, you get the gist, right? Now, most of these people on here, they're too ignorant to understand that. When you say the size of a football field, of course, they probably have no idea what a football field is or what the size is. But they have no clue how big an airliner is. I don't know what they think. But that's the kind of mentality that you're dealing with on here, okay? So, but just for argumentative sake, I've got some pictures here to show you what I'm talking about. And to show you, the people that have made these comments, how ignorant they actually are. Okay? And, hey, and maybe it's not their fault. Maybe they were born that way, all right? Anyway. So, one of the things that I commented on is I said, look, you've got a Boeing 747. They fly at different altitudes, okay? We all know that. And, of course, you've got people that say, well, I can see an airplane. You can't see an airplane? Everybody can see an airplane, depending on its height. So a normal person goes out and looks up in the sky. Sometimes you can see an airplane plain as day. Now, when I say plain as day, we're talking teeny tiny dot moving if it's up pretty high. You can tell that it's an airplane. You can usually see its contrails or its chemtrails, depending on what kind of airplane you're looking at here. In some instances, though, if it didn't have a contrail behind it, you would barely be able to see it. I mean, it's just a speck. And so then you've got, the idiots that come out and they're like, oh, I can see an airplane just fine. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, really? What color is it? How many windows does it have? How many engines does it have? How many people are on the plane? What's the logo? Okay, so what you meant to say is you can see a speck in the sky, but you have no other clue other than that. You can't even see, you can't tell me what airline it is, so you can't see it very well, can you? But again, you've always got the idiot, the wingnut that comes out and says, oh, I can see it perfectly. It's like, really? Prove it. Take a picture and prove it. You can't. They're liars. So, and they're bots. What do you expect? So, but then when you say, okay, the wingspan and fuselage, you add this up, it's big. Almost as big and wide and long, not as wide, but as long as a football field. So then you say, okay, well, you can see that speck, but can you see an individual engine on it? Can you see anything that's small on it? Because the whole plane is a speck. Well, of course you can't. Any fool can see that. So the whole point of the video is if you can't see an airplane, a 747, or you can see a very small portion of it, a speck in the sky, and it's between 8-9 miles, depending on its altitude, 6 miles, 8 miles, I don't know exactly. So they fly at different altitudes. So, but when you look up and you see this aircraft that's humongous, and it looks like a speck in the sky, but then you turn around and say, I can look past that, and I can see a satellite in outer space. Now, the satellite, it's the size of a kitchen table. It's tiny. It's tiny compared to the airplane. You see what I mean? It's teeny tiny. But I can see the satellite. It's the size of a kitchen table, smaller than the engine on the jet. Now, you can't make out the engine on the jet, but I'm telling you I can see a satellite, and it's not at 5 to 8 or 6 miles away. It's at 350 miles away. See, that's the whole ignorance of this thing. You can't see an airplane at 350 miles away, a jumbo jet. I don't care who you are. So then you have I can see them all day long. I can see their lights blinking. At 350 miles away? No, you can see their lights blinking if they're flying right over your head, like a couple miles, maybe. But that's about it. You're not going to see anything other than that, maybe a speck or a glint or something. Anyway, that's the whole point of the deal. So then they go on and say, well, I can see the ISS, the International Space Station. I see it all the time. It flies right over my head. Really? Well, see, there's your next problem. The International Space Station is also supposedly roughly the size of a 747. And it's 350 miles away. So how is it that you're seeing it so well? Well, you can track it. You can see it. It's real. Well, you're seeing something. But what are you seeing? What are you really seeing? That's my question. All right, so I got this pulled up for us. So here's the gist of the thing. I have scoured the internet because, all of these gurus, if you will, on the internet, on TikTok and wherever, Spotify. I've seen the ISS is what they claim, which they're lying, of course. And then they go on to say, there's pictures all over the internet of the ISS. So I did a little research. This right here, let's see if we can get it pulled up. Oh, no, there it is. That right there is a picture, supposedly, of the ISS space station filmed with a camera with a good zoom. There it is. They said that's flying over their head. Now, you can clearly make out it has different parts to it, right? Like it has some things sticking out, supposedly solar panels sticking out. You can see that in the picture, obviously. Okay, now I want you to keep in mind that is supposedly 350 miles away. Okay? So the next question is, can you take a picture of anything else 350 miles away, like here on Earth? Dang, just can't do it. You just can't do it. So let's see. I've got some pictures here. All right, let me get this picture pulled up. Let's see if you can see this one. That is a picture of a tanker out in the ocean. Now, because of the way the light refracts or whatever, it looks like it's floating when it's clearly not. Okay, that picture was taken, according to the internet, because it's supposedly a famous picture that you can Google yourself. This picture was supposedly taken between 25 and 40 miles. So I'm giving it an estimate of 30 miles away. 30 miles, okay? Now, you see the picture. You see it, right? Let me bring it back up. Here is the picture, if it will work, of the one. Here is the picture of the other one. Okay? If you can see that. I can't see it because it's blocking my screen. Hold on a second. There we go. Get them in the same picture. How about that? There you go. There they are. If you can see that. Okay. The one at the top is supposedly about the length of a football field. 100 yards. That picture is supposedly taken at 350 miles away with a zoom-in camera. The picture at the bottom is a ocean liner, okay? It is a tanker, and it's the length of like 4 football fields. So it's 3 times longer than the thing above it. The picture on the top was supposedly taken at 350 miles away. The one at the bottom is roughly 30 miles away. Okay, do you see the problem with those two pictures? They're roughly the same size in the frame, zoomed in. Now, I've tried to find other pictures that are supposedly on Earth that are zoomed in, past 30, 40, 50 miles. Can't find any. You can only see so far, even with a camera. Once you get out so far, it disappears. In other words, you can't go out onto the ocean and take a picture of a ship 350 miles away. It's not going to happen. You can't see it. And it's 3 times bigger than this thing up on the top, on the ISS. But somehow you can see it. Okay, so think about that for a second. Now, they're roughly the same size in the picture. Now, let me show you a picture of also the ISS, supposedly. Okay, this is a time, I think this is it. Is this it? You silly thing, come here. No, that's the same one. Let's go back. All right, let's see if it will show it to you. Here we go. Here it is. You can see that. You see the line there, right? That is a time-lapse photo from a regular camera because you can see the house on the right. I think you can. Let me pull this picture all the way over so you can. You should be able to see the house on the right. You see the tree, you see the line in the sky. Well, so this is a regular camera pointed up at the sky, not necessarily zoomed in because you can see the house and the windows. And there is a time-lapse photo. So it's been taking multiple pictures of a basically, as you can clearly see, it would have to be like a dot in the sky. Okay? It's a dot of light in the sky, and they can see it moving. And as this thing takes a picture, it stretches it out, and you can see a line that's supposedly this thing flying over your head. That's what it would look like to the naked eye. Okay? So again, it's a dot, a speck. It's 350 miles away. Now, that's supposedly the size of a football field. It's 100 yards long. Size, roughly, of the length of a Boeing 747 or 747 or 767, a big airplane. Now, as you can see in this picture, you can't see anything but supposedly a light, and that's supposedly the sunlight reflecting off of it. And then when it's zoomed in, you get this other picture, the first one I showed you. Well, here's what I think. Okay, yes, you're seeing something. And maybe that one picture is true. I don't know. If it is, it's being held up by a balloon, or it's attached, or is some kind of a aircraft that's being flown at a high altitude. How high, you say? Well, the way I see it is we've got amateur rockets that have been shot up before. In one I've got a video of. And it's spinning, and it acts like it hits something at about 160,000 feet in the air. Comes to a dead stop. So I think it hit the firmament somewhere in that area. So how high is the firmament? Well, let's give it a little and say 180,000 feet. Let's say that the firmament is at 180,000 feet in the air. Well, let's do a little simple math here. How far is that? How high is that? Well, let's see. 180,000 feet is 34 miles. 34 miles. Think about that. You're standing on the beach and you zoom your camera in as far as it'll go at a ship in the ocean, and it's approximately 4 football fields long. And as far as you can zoom in, there's your ship, and you're about roughly 30 miles away, according to the picture. You zoom into this thing above your head that's way smaller, same zoom, and it looks to be about the same size, roughly. Maybe because it's only about 30 miles away. You see, it's not 350,000 miles away or 350 miles away. It's 30 miles away. It's right over your head. That's why it looks that way. It's the same as if you were to look out over the ocean just with your naked eyes, you wouldn't even see the ship. You couldn't see it at 30 miles away. You can't see 30 miles. But if you zoom it in with a special camera, there you've got it. About 30 miles away. That's it. So my guess is that whatever it is that's flying over people's heads is not 350 miles away. It's about 30 miles away. That's how come you can see it at all. And so then when you get the string of satellites, the Starlink satellites, you're like, oh, well, you can't see the satellite. You can see the sun reflecting off of them. So you're seeing light. You're seeing the reflection of something 350 miles away. Obviously, that's ridiculous. But if it was 30 miles away, maybe you could see it. Maybe if it wasn't even 30 miles, maybe if it's only, I don't know, about the height of an aircraft would fly, maybe you could see it. So again, I've had people tell me that they saw these Starlink satellites fly over, and they casted a shadow in smoke on a fire that was about 30,000 feet in the air. They actually flew through the smoke. Of course, then you've got your rocket scientist that comes on TikTok, and he says, oh, well, that's just because they were being deployed at a lower altitude. They go up higher later on. They were deployed at 30,000 feet, a satellite? Well, they would fall down to Earth like a rock. Just like an airplane would. Fly an airplane up to 30,000 feet and turn everything off, and it will come down. See, these satellites are relying on no gravity to work. They don't have wings. They don't have jet engines. They're relying on the absence of gravity, according to what? Mainstream science? So how are you releasing satellites at 30,000 feet in the air where they're able to fly through smoke from a fire? A big fire, but smoke from a fire. Oh, well, they're released at a lot lower altitude. Released? What, from a spaceship? From a rocket? So you're telling me they're flying a rocket up to 30,000 feet, the height of a jet airliner, and releasing satellites the size of a kitchen table, and they're somehow magically all flying in a straight line and all lit up like Christmas trees. And they do this round and round and round the earth until they finally ascend up to 350 miles. Seriously? That's pretty stupid. I mean, how can you believe that? No, probably what they're doing is they may be being released at 30,000 feet, all right, from an airplane. Or they're being flown up there on a tether. There are a bunch of balloons tethered together with a bunch of big bright flashing lights. That's what it is. That's what you're seeing. That's why it flies right over your head. Like low. Oh, those are satellites in outer space, 350 miles away. What this is brainwashing at its finest. You can't see it, and you know you can't see it. You can't see 350 miles away, and you know it. The human eye can only see about 3 miles away. That's about it. Now, that can be a little different the higher you go. Like if you're on top of a 10,000 foot mountain looking down, you can see a little further. Standing on the ground, looking at the ocean, you can see about 3 miles. So you're not going to see any ships at 30 miles. You're going to see nothing. You're not going to see the sun reflecting off ships 30 miles away. You're going to see nothing. You can see nothing 30 miles away unless you have some type of magnification, like a super duper zoom in Nikon P1000. Okay? That's it. Otherwise, you'll see nothing. And of course, you shouldn't even see the ship at 30 miles because it should be on the other side of the earth. But that's the earth curvature problem. That's a whole nother problem. But the fact that you can see it at all, because of the globe is, here we are. Welcome to flat earth. But either way, you can't see past about 3 miles with the naked eye. But you have people set here on these social media platforms, and they will swear up and down that they are seeing satellites in outer space fly by. I see them all the time. I've been spotting them as a kid my whole life, one guy said. Now, you saw a blinking light in the sky, and Cartoon Network told you it was a satellite, so you believed it. So I don't know what you saw. Okay, but you didn't see anything 350 miles away the size of a kitchen table. We both know you didn't. Okay, you can't replicate it. You can't do it right now. And if you think you can, go out into your street out here or someplace flat, right, that you can actually see that far because you can't do it anywhere else. Go to someplace that's flat and level, like the ocean, and shine your camera out there and take a picture of something 350 miles away. I'd like to see it. Post it, because you can go on Google, you can go on Grok, you can go on ChatGPT, you can query the internet 100 different ways to get a picture of something 350 miles away that somebody took and they don't exist. Do you want to know why? Because it can't be done. The only time it can be done is if NASA is involved. And then it's, oh, well, look, you took a picture of the International Space Station. It's 350 miles away. But you can't seem to get any pictures of a satellite flying by, can you? Why not? You can see their blinking lights, supposedly. So why can't you get a picture of them? Other than a light. You can get a picture of a light going across the sky, but that's about it. It's because they're not 350 miles away. They're probably no more than 30 miles away. They're really close, and they're not what you're told they are. That's the reason. Sorry. You can't prove it. Okay, all you can do is run to NASA, which are devil worshippers. Now, you can claim NASA's correct while NASA's, purposely showing you satanic emblems, showing you pictures of Satan, that kind of stuff. Now, we can run to them and ask them what they say, and they'll tell you, look, man, you came from a monkey, from the Big Bang. There's no such thing as any of what you're saying. There's no such thing as a firmament. There's no such thing as anything except what we say. And we say Satan is real. You should worship him. You should worship all the fake gods and all the fake pagan gods out there. You should do that. And then believe you came from a monkey. And, hey, those are satellites in outer space you're seeing. Don't you know we've got satellites on Mars? Satellites going around Mars and Jupiter and everything. Just ask us. We'll show you a grainy CGI photo and take your money. That's what this is about. The problem is we've got Hollywood, which is a satanic deal. We've got all of your politicians, which are 99.9% all satanic and other things. We've got all of your space stations, or not space stations, space entities like NASA and Japan, whoever has a space agency. You've got all of your space agencies. They're all in on it. They're all devil worshippers. All of your mainstream scientists, they're all atheists and devil worshippers. So do you think you're going to get the truth from anybody like that? I mean, these are the same people, okay, that are telling you to go get rattlesnake bit over and over and over. Okay? I mean, we've got these high up so-called scientists. I call them pseudoscientists. They're not real scientists. They're fakes. But they're being portrayed as real scientists. They're not. People are trying to sue them, and they're going after them. The government's going after them for lying. I mean, if you could believe anything that they said, they wouldn't be having to hide everything they do. So what they do is they know people can get the information like through Freedom of Information Act, and they can see what's going on, get their emails. So what do? They do like old Killery, right? They put a separate server out here that nobody knows about, a secret one, and then you do everything through it. That way you can hide all of your communications. And then somebody runs across it and they realize what's being said, like, oh, so now we have proof that you lied. They're all in on it. Now, is anything ever going to come of it? Probably not. But those of us that are in the know, we know that they're liars. We know that they're devils. We know that they're devil worshipers. And that's the whole goal, is to thin the herd. That's what they want to do. That's their stated goal. They don't even really lie about it anymore. They pretty much talk about it all the time. They want to depopulate. Okay, these are the same people that are pushing outer space, that are pushing all of the fake stuff on TV. Same people. They've been doing it for years. Nothing's changed. It's propaganda. That's what it's always been. So I just thought it was kind of funny, I thought I'd bring up those pictures. Those are the pictures you can get. If you can get some better picture, let me know. But you take a picture of the space station, so-called, and here we are, and it looks about like the same size, roughly, as a cargo container or a tanker ship on the ocean, which taken about 30 miles away, and it's way bigger. The ship is, but they're about the same. You see what I mean? You're not seeing anything 350 miles away. And if you think you can, hey, prove me wrong. Go outside right now and take a picture of something like a point on land and show me where you're at, like with Google Maps, and say, look, I'm sitting here in Arkansas and I took a picture of something down there in Dallas, Texas, because it's, 300 miles away? Do it. I want to see it. Or better yet, show me something reflecting in Dallas, Texas, over here somewhere in Arkansas. Say, hey, I'm sitting over here in Arkansas, but I see a reflection 350 miles away. It just so happens it's a window in Dallas. It can be a big window. How about the window, instead of a window the size of a kitchen table, make it a window the size of a skyscraper. Have it reflect the light back to you in Arkansas and take a picture of it. And you see that light? That is a skyscraper in Dallas, Texas. It's only 300 miles away. I mean, can you do it or not? If you can't do that, how can you take a picture or see a satellite 350 miles away? It doesn't matter if it's in space. It doesn't matter where it's at. You can't see that far. Now, you've been led to believe that the lights you see up in the sky are millions of miles away, trillions of miles away, zillions of miles. They're not. They're local. They're in the firmament. The firmament's only about 34 miles, 30 to 40 miles above your head. It's really not that high. Okay? That's why when NASA shoots off their rocket, it goes like this and turns and comes right back down. And, of course, you can obviously see it's going right back down into the ocean. Oh, no, it's not. It's going down on the other side of the ocean, on the other side of the globe. Sure it is. Right. I mean, you can literally see the thing fizzle out and go right down. Well, we know if you drove or sailed out that far, you ain't ever going to get to nothing to fall off, and you're not ever going to get to the other side. You're going to see the rocket come right down into the water. That's what it did. Right down into the Bermuda Triangle, most likely. So that's why all of NASA's fake shuttle launches always go up, 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 over, down, down, down. They can't go straight up. They won't. Do you want to know why? Take a guess. Oh, well, it's because, we've got to get this rocket going, and it's got to fall down on the other side of the earth, of the globe. It's got to get down on the other side of the globe, it's got to get down in outer space. And you just think from one point A to point B, in a straight line, you think that's a shorter distance. Oh, but it's not. NASA said so. You've got to fly out, and you've got to do this, and this, and finally get to point B from point A. You can't just fly in a straight line. That's impossible. Well, I tell you what. Okay, it's going to take a little more fuel, according to you, right? Why don't you do it anyway? Why don't you set the record straight and just shoot the thing straight up and let's see it go straight to the moon then? Can you do it? I mean, you can see the moon. We can see the rocket. The rocket's supposedly traveling at 25,000 miles an hour. Let's see it. Shoot it to the moon, boy. Let's see it. You can't. They never go straight up and never will. They always go up, up, over, down, down, down. They can't go straight up because they'd hit the firmament. They don't want you to know it's there. So they will never shoot anything straight up. Now, have there been people shoot things straight up? Yeah, amateurs. And they've actually got film of them shooting a rocket literally straight up. And it gets up to about 160,000 feet, somewhere in there, and it comes to a sudden screeching halt. What stopped it, I wonder? It just stops. Interesting, huh? Well, yeah. So, that's what we're dealing with here. You're never going to see it because they can't do it. It's the same as this. You're not seeing anything 350 miles away because there is no 350 miles away, not up. Not that you can see. Now, what's on the other side of the firmament? Water, according to the Bible, God's throne. Well, how far does that go past? I don't know. Probably indefinitely. I have no idea. But how far can you see through water anyway? Not very far. So, on the other side of the firmament is the great deep, according to the Bible. Now, I understand you're an atheist. You don't believe in the Bible. You think the Bible's hogwash. Well, hey, that's your prerogative. You don't have to believe anything. But now, if you're a Christian, that's one thing. Well, let me back up on that. There's a big difference in a Christian and a Bible believer. Okay? Huge difference. They're not even the same thing, really. See, me, I'm a Bible believer. I believe what it says. I believe that it's God's Word, the King James Version, not any perverted Bibles, the King James. So I believe what it says, and that's what it says. It says there's a firmament. It says there's water on the other side of the firmament. Now, I know lots of so-called Christians, they say, oh, I believe in the Bible, but I don't believe that section. I believe NASA instead. Well, what about whenever God made the sun stop moving and he made it move in the reverse direction? Oh, well, he didn't mean the sun. He meant the earth. What? Well, it says he made the sun stop moving. Well, they don't know what they're talking about, so I don't believe that part either. Okay. Well, what about when he made the moon stop moving and he made it go backwards? Oh, I don't believe that either. Okay. So you're not a Bible believer. Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Well, you only believe selective parts, the parts that suits whatever you want to believe. I got you. I know a whole bunch of Christians like that. The Bible says something that they don't like, well, they just omit it. Or, I don't agree with that. So it doesn't matter if God said it or not, I'm not going to do it because I know better. You know, I had a brother-in-law one time said the same thing. I won't go into it because it's not a Bible study, but if you want to know more about it, it had to do with, women preaching, and the King James Bible clearly says that a woman's not supposed to be a preacher, right? So she's going into preaching. And they're all talking about it. I'm like, well, doesn't the scripture X, Y, and Z tell you you're not supposed to be doing that? Well, times change. That's what I was told. You need to grow up. Times change. Oh. So, because times are changing, God's word has to change along with it. Is that what you're telling me? So, well, times have changed now, and now you can be a sodomite, no problem. But God's word says not to be. But times are changing, man. Times are changing. The Bible says there's a firmament. NASA proved that wrong in 1940, when they started worshiping the devil. Yeah, sure they did. But hey, times are changing. NASA says we've got helicopters flying on Mars. No atmosphere or anything, but hey, they're flying around on Mars, no problem. Get your checkbook out. So, So my advice to you on this stuff is, do some research. Now, I have lots of comments on here, and they're like, why don't you back up what you say with facts? Hey, I promise you, I know lots of guys that do this for a living, really, and they have all the facts. And the same people say the same thing to them. They don't believe it anyway. These same people, they won't believe any facts. They're just like Pharisees in the Bible. Do you think they believed any facts? I mean, they were studying God's word, praying for the return of Christ. Christ shows up. Okay, actually shows up in the flesh, and they won't listen. And then he does all the miracles. They still won't have anything to do with them. And then he shows that everything that was prophesied, he fulfilled. I still don't want to have anything. I still don't believe it. So literally, these guys were the church leaders. They were the big dogs in the church, telling everybody how they're supposed to live their lives, reading all the rules. God himself shows up in person, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want nothing to do with him. It's the same thing here. Okay? It's the same thing. And I've got a guy talking about this. He says, if all the astronauts came forward and admitted that they were lying, they were coerced or whatever, and they really never went to any of these missions, it's all fake, he said, I'd still believe it. I still believe it. That's how brainwashed some people are. If the guys themselves, which Buzz Aldrin has said it many times, by the way, say themselves that they didn't go to the moon, for example, he said, I'd still believe it. I'd still believe it. So they don't believe it. So even if I had all the facts here, if I had the astronaut sitting here like this going, I didn't know it, buddy, he wouldn't believe it. If I had Buzz Aldrin on the show and he said, look, I'm on my deathbed, I'm fixing to die, I was coerced, I lied, I never went, You wouldn't believe it. It doesn't matter what you do, you wouldn't believe it, because your mind is too asphyxiated on Cartoon Network. Your mind is too asphyxiated on sports. Men running around in spandex, throwing around a football. That's what your whole life revolves around. Oh, and beer. You think you're going to believe anything that's real? Nah, you're not interested. And like one guy said, he said, why don't you talk about something that actually means something? Well, I mean, why don't you get a life? You know, why don't you turn that TV off for a little bit and do some reading in that Bible? It might change your life, but they're not interested in any of that. It's like I said, the Pharisees themselves didn't believe it when God himself showed up in the flesh. They didn't believe it. And these guys here, if I had the facts, if I had some stardust in my hand, if I had a piece of the ISS in my hand and said, look, this fell off and it's made by Boeing, it's nothing more than an airplane, they wouldn't believe it. If the stinking thing fell down in somebody's pond, they wouldn't believe it. So there's no amount of facts going to get anybody to believe anything because they don't believe the facts. So that's why on here, hey, it's Truth Seekers Ministry, okay? Truth Seekers Radio. We're seeking truth. I'm telling you what I think the truth and what others think the truth are. Look into it. Don't take my word for it. Open your mind a little bit and do a little research. Maybe you'll come to a different conclusion. Maybe you won't. I don't know. But if you don't ever think outside the box and don't ever do anything other than what the TV tells you to do and what Hollywood tells you to do, I can't help you, man. You're hell-bound. I can tell you that for sure. I know where you'll end up. So, anyway, having said all that, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. It's been 42 minutes. Check out the TikTok if you like them. I got some shorts on there, some other stuff. Spotify. Check out Spotify. Like it. Share it. It's on all other podcast platforms. I'm on Patreon, Rumble, and YouTube. And I've got 2 websites, okay? I've got itsflatbro.com and I've got truthseekersministry.org, or you can also get to it by now typing truthseekersradio.com or kennywilliamson.com. Any of those 3 will take you to the same website. There's all kinds of stuff on there. Way to contact me. My email is truthseekers2012@gmail.com. Send me an email. Send me any questions, comments, concerns. I'd be happy to answer them. In fact, I'm going to do another podcast here soon on answering comments. So send me the comments. I'd love to hear them, and I read them all. I've got some really funny ones right now. In fact, if you're on Spotify, go check them out. There, got some wild ones on there. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, God bless you.